After literally decades of wanting to do this movie, a film that was picture perfect for his sensibilities as a filmmaker, Guillermo del Toro finally gets to enact his dream vision of creating a Frankenstein film with this adaptation that has just recently released. It will be coming out on Netflix very shortly, but it is playing in select theaters right now, and I really want to talk about what I think might be the defining achievement in Del Toro's amazing filmography. Let's get into it.
Now, run.
Guillermo del Toro, if you are familiar with his filmography, is kind of the master of creating films about monsters. The creature design in all of his films is absolutely extraordinary, with some unique creatures and very unique perspectives being brought to the screen. Only he really makes a film like the way he does, and it's what you go to see a Del Toro movie for. And it just felt fitting that he should tackle maybe the most iconic monster of all time with Frankenstein. His filmography has always been very consistent to me. I am not a massive fan of his work, but I do like pretty much all of his films, but I've never really been crazy passionate about any of them or see myself revisiting all that much, to be honest with you. But on their singular viewings, I do come out really appreciating the craftsmanship of his films and pretty positive overall. Frankenstein, to me, after seeing it, is the first movie of his that I feel really passionate about and so excited to talk about and cannot wait to revisit, because there's just something here that I absolutely adore. There has been a bit of a boom in more sophisticated takes on the monster movie as of late. Earlier this year in Australia, or late last year in America, Nosferatu released, and that was Robert Eggers' very intellectual take on a vampire film, even if it is a remake of a classic. And Frankenstein, in a way, is somewhat similar to that vein while having that Del Toro authorship behind it all. And I love so much about it. And to me, it's weird to talk about this first because I usually like to dive into narrative, but I think this is a genuine achievement in craftsmanship. Makeup has always been a huge aspect of Del Toro's movies, and this is no different. What they have done with Jacob Elordi as the monster is incredible stuff. I love the design of this creature. It's very anatomical and dives into the more weird science that happens both in the Frankenstein novel, previous adaptations, and this one as well. And I love that take on it. It looks extraordinary in the film. That character has so much atmosphere behind it. And then that is followed up with some of the best costume design I have seen this year by far, and maybe in a couple of years. There's just this good balance between each and every character. Each outfit is so tied into the identity of the character, and they look absolutely stunning. Oscar Isaac as Frankenstein, some of the fits he wears just embody what this character is and who he is. The same thing with the monster, and likewise with some of the female characters, particularly Mia Goth. The outfits she's wearing are just incredible stuff, and they're crafted to perfection. It adds so much to the frame, and I love to see that in a movie when all of this money that has been given to the production of this film is put into something like production design, makeup, and costuming. It's genuine filmmaking. It feels real and tactile and feels so old school in the best possible way, capturing something of a period piece while telling this tale about a monster and fathers and sons. It ties together so well and adds so much to each and every shot of this film, and I was astounded by how incredible those crafts were. As I mentioned, with the costume design and the makeup, the production design is an absolute achievement. I have to say I'm pretty jealous of these actors being able to play within a set like this one. It is incredible, each and every room in this movie is filled with little details that tell you so much about the characters in the background. I think it's an achievement in all three of those aspects, and I think it deserves the Oscars in all three categories of makeup, production design, and costume design. It is astounding. But let's get into the meat and bones of it all. Let's get into the narrative of Frankenstein. It is very much trying to be a novel adaptation while having Del Toro's own vision and spin on things, which is what an auteur is there to do. I'm not here to see a complete retelling of a book blow by blow. The book is there for that. The film should take the very best ideas that the book has, harness it, and utilize a director's own stamp and identity on things to make it its own and stand on its own. And I think Del Toro has done that incredibly well here. And I think it's actually a shining star of how you should handle an adaptation. The structure and essence of this novel is there in telling this story about how certain pain and tendencies between father and son get passed down from generation to generation, and being able to break that cycle. The dynamic between Frankenstein and his monster is the highlight of this film, hands down. And when it finally dives into it properly, it is some of the most unbelievable and compelling stuff that I've seen in a movie this year. I was blown away by both Oscar Isaac's performance as Frankenstein. I know some people are saying it's a bit one note as to his flaws and who he is as a character. He dives into some things of the more nastier side of his personality really quickly. And then there's Jacob Elordi's monster, which is so nuanced in its take, and I wasn't quite expecting something so sophisticated from this creature, if I'm being completely honest with you. But what it does, and Del Toro's decision making, and going by the very best of the novel and giving the creature a lot of its own thought processes, and illustrating the ways in which the dynamic between Frankenstein and his creation are so incredibly strained, and what has caused that. I think deciding to make Oscar Isaac's Frankenstein be the person he is from the very get-go is essential in telling this story. And I think the opening act, which maybe seem a little bit slow to a lot of people, is so essential in making the conclusion of this story as satisfying as I think it is. Another thing that really set this over the top for me personally was its narrative structure and the choices it made. It is very clearly split into two halves of this tale, with a prelude and an epilogue. And these two halves are just as important as one another. And when I fully realized what the structure of this movie was, which was about perhaps maybe the midway point of this film, there's a definitive moment that happens that splits these two halves apart. And when that happened, I just was so happy. It was just a wow moment for me. It's not the most showiest thing ever. Some might find this particular scene in the dialogue to be maybe a little fan servicey or corny, but I absolutely loved it. When it happened, I just jaw dropped. I loved what it was going for. And then when it dives into that second half, which I would think is more compelling than the first half and gives you a little bit more to chew on, and really starts diving into the themes of this movie, it just kept building momentum. I think a common criticism I've seen for this film is the runtime is too long, and usually I'm a bit of a runtime snob. I think if you're going to be over 2 hours long, you need to justify that runtime. Do not waste the audience's time in being pretentious or just self-indulgent, which sometimes those movies can be. I don't think that's the case for this film. I think Del Toro has created a film that feels akin to something like Martin Scorsese has described about his longer films, which is that he's designed a movie for you to just sit back, relax, and just immerse yourself in the world. Just go along for the ride. And if you do that, with Frankenstein, I promise you it is one of the best experiences you'll have with a film this year. Because that was my attitude going into this film. I knew it was 2.5 hours going into it, and it started off going a little bit slower and building some things, and I was just like, you know what, let's give Del Toro the space, let's just relax and get pulled into this world, because what is being demonstrated visually is astounding. So I was like, okay, let's go in for the ride for this movie. And it just pulled me in more and more and more until the end, and I was just blown away by everything that's presented. There's a point near the end of the second half of this story before the epilogue, which I won't spoil, but it was just mind-blowing. The shock, the twist. I wasn't completely familiar with everything that happens in the novel going into this movie, so there's some spoiler aspects that I had no idea was going to happen. And when they did, I was like, oh my god, like it's going for certain choices here that I think were just bold and feel so great in this tale about this monster. And there's a particular shot of the creature holding someone going down some stairs that was just visually incredible. I like, it just blows me away. There's so many frames in this movie, so many moments that just had me along for this ride every step of the way. I just couldn't believe how well this has been crafted and how immersive this story truly is. And I think Del Toro's style here really helped build this to be so extraordinary. I think the way he captures Frankenstein's monster particularly was incredible. We know Jacob Elordi is a really tall man. I mean, he's huge. And him playing this character was brilliant because he has this gentle physicality that goes along with this character, but he does have moments of ruthlessness, and he is the monster at times. And the way that Del Toro can capture him, the way that he utilizes angles to be either kind of above his head or underneath him to illustrate how big and intimidating of a presence he can be, I adored. And I think that was so purposeful and in capturing the best parts of Elordi's physicality, which I truly think he deserves a supporting actor nomination for at the Academy Awards. It feels very akin to what Bill Skarsgård did with Count Orlok in Nosferatu, where he's just doing something so different, and yes, he's caked up in a lot of makeup that make him look physically unrecognizable, but the physicality of his performance, the way that he speaks, what he's capturing in every single scene, just pulls you in, and you can't help but connect to this character. Del Toro has always shown a lot of empathy to his monsters. He's always been on the monsters' side for a lot of his movies, and that definitely happens here, and I love that perspective on things. He's always providing an indictment on mankind and the many flaws that mankind have, and the way that he utilizes the monster as a way to illustrate that, I think, was brilliant in capturing Elordi's performance, which, as I said, can be quite gentle, but he is also just so ruthless at times, and there's some surprising amounts of gore that happen in this movie. I think Del Toro captures gore really well, because it feels like at times his movies aren't going to go down that route, and then there's a scene that happens where something just drastically gory happens, and it just kind of blows you away for a second. And there are moments like that in here that I think were really badass and worked really well to the benefit of the film. As I mentioned, it has been a film that Guillermo del Toro has been working to pretty much his whole career. It's a dream project of his. And there are moments in this film where you do feel like this is almost like a culmination of his work that has led up to this. You see elements of so many of his films in this movie. You see The Shape of Water in here. You see Crimson Peak in here. You see Pan's Labyrinth in here. And It's just really well handled the way he can weave in some of the best moments of those films and kind of integrate it into Frankenstein, illustrating everything that he has learned throughout his filmography and as he's grown and matured as a filmmaker. I think the way that he approaches that is so brilliant, and it all feels effortless. It doesn't feel like a director just being incredibly self-indulgent. It feels like someone who is just so giddy and excited to make this monster film can finally put it together and orchestrate just some of the best moments of his career. Honestly, I could go on and on and on about Frankenstein. I'm very passionate about this film and I love so much about it. It's so beautiful of a tale. I'm surprised at how gentle it is. I love so much about the production design, makeup, costuming, the art direction, the way that these characters look and feel, having creatures and little things like rats be around the creature in many sequences and moments, and orchestrating this very empathetic side of the monster and him interacting with different characters and having different experiences. It's so interesting to see and so compelling. The performances draw you in. Guillermo del Toro's direction has never been more effortless and honestly incredible. I do think that this is his best film. That may be a hot take because I know that some people don't like this movie, but honestly, this felt like a movie that was designed for me. Like a film that has a budget this large and putting it into all the right places is something that I want to see in a film in 2025. I would see so many of these types of films, and it's one that I'm very excited to rewatch. I know this is coming out on Netflix, but I urge you to see this on a cinema screen. It feels designed for that, and it feels a bit of a crime that this is going to be a Netflix film because it does this a disservice. This needs to be seen on the biggest screen possible. This deserves like an IMAX release or something like that because it's so worthy of that. Every frame pops and is so detailed and amazing. It's so worth your time. I couldn't be glazing this movie anymore, but I'm just so excited about it. And as a score, I have to give Frankenstein a 5 out of 5. And those are my thoughts towards Frankenstein. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and how Del Toro has approached these characters. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.